Hi, welcome to the small shed. This Saturday I want to build a little test track for programming model railway decoders. See you in a minute. Now, one of the advantages of having these decoders in the locomotives is that you can make them do a huge amount of things. The downside of that is that there are, I think, 300 and something pages in one of the decoder manuals as to various things to adjust, and it really is quite a complex and involved operation. There are probably only about 10 that you normally alter, but you can alter the way things accelerate and decelerate, the way they brake, the speed curves, and then when you get into the sound there's all sorts of things there to worry about, and it's just something that really needs a little short length of track, about, I don't know, 500 or 600 mil long, that you can connect up to the controller and just do stuff when you're working with the locomotives. So I'm just going to gather up some scrap as usual, see what I've got, and then we'll move it on from there and see what I can make of it. So here we are, all the stuff from the usual suspects. There's some a watch box or two from the recycling store that you've seen so much of. I've still got half a dozen of them to use up. I've got a length of track that I've just got from the roof. It's a bit tatty, but again it doesn't really matter because it's not something that's important other than just using it for what it is. I've got some lengths of MDF. I've got some various thicknesses and sizes. I think I want to go with something reasonably substantial for this. And then to keep up with the recycling, I've got an old trolley that we've just taken out of the house, out of my wife's workroom, and replaced it with that metal one. There are some nice long timbers in that with rounded tops. I've gathered some of those up. The only problem I've got at the moment is the only rips I've got of MDF are a fraction narrower than these boxes are. And rather than start and mess around trying to get new pieces of MDF and that, I'm using up scraps. What I think I will do is, where this is at the end and you'll have the rails continuing either side, I'll just take the router and house out that little bit that it needs to be taken out, and the rounded end of the router will just give it somewhere to bed in there. So you'll end up with something like that, with an end on it at the far end. So first up, I think, is to decide on the overall length, cut the side pieces to match, and start and get these corner joints mited on the chop saw, and I'll worry about this little bit of routering later. That's got all the routering done. It's ready to sand down now and glue together. Essentially now you've got a trough that you can put the track in, or I can put the track in, wire it in into that box, and then the box will be able to keep all the pieces and spare cables and things like that. So yeah, on to gluing up next. We'll get it glued up, pin the joints, and just about there, I think. Now while the main glue up's drying, I'm just going to do something with the box. I want to remove all the branding on it, if nothing else. After all, Armani don't advertise the small shed, so I don't see why I should advertise their watches. So I'm going to drill 2 holes there. One will be, well, they'll probably both be the same size actually, yeah. So I'll find a force and a bit and we'll do some holes in the top. Now, I bolted the top ring in on the socket, so that's now done, ready to go. Put the switch in. I'm going to spray the inside of the box, take the lid off, so that again you lose all the visuals of the wiring. It'll just look like it's same as the bottom with a coat of colour on the inside. Probably just do it black or something. We'll have a go with this. It's weird stuff, it just puts like a texture on. It's like spraying snot. Now it's turned out quite well, that spray. I was going to put ballast round the track after it was laid, but actually I'm going to leave it like that because it looks as if it's sitting on ballast anyway. Other thing I've done, because it's getting to the point where it's looking a lot better than I'd really wanted or needed to, I decided that the piece of second-hand rubbish plastic ready to run track probably wasn't the thing to use with it. So I've just gone and dug out some of the track that I use on proper layouts, which is essentially walnut sleepers, individual little chairs that are glued on, and the rails are sort of pre-weathered at the moment. So I'm going to use that for the track. I'm going to glue that down in there. I've drilled a couple of holes in there now, and a couple of holes in the end of the piece that's going in there of the hinging lid. That will take the wires from the track into the box. these rubber pads that I got from the, needless to say, the recycling place. Again, proved pretty much a godsend in lots of small jobs, and yet again they were literally only pennies, one at each end, and that's pretty much it. Just have a very quick look at what these things do. So when you buy a locomotive or a decoder or anything, the convention is that it's always numbered 3, and that way everybody knows exactly where they are. You can always interrogate the decoder, and that's the purpose of this sort of thing, to find out what these numbers are. There are about 250 odd different things that can be programmed in there, but we'll just stick with the number to make it work as a very quick reasoning behind this whole setup. Because if I did this on a layout full of locomotives, they would all respond exactly the same to whatever was going on when I control it here. So if I changed the locomotive number to number 40, for instance, they'd all change to 40. So you need a discrete separate programming track to do it. But essentially, if I put Loco 40 on there, I've now got control of locomotive 40, but that is, nothing's happening. You press the sound button, nothing happens. That's because that locomotive is number 3 at the moment. If I go locomotive 3 and I press the sound, you can hear it starts off and it will run. Turn the sound off. So there we are. So if I now go to that loco and say point loco 1, which is the variable I want to change, and I change the preset to number 40, 40, and I press go, confirm, yes. That's now sending a signal to the decoder in the locomotive saying you're no longer number 3, you're number 40. That's finished now. Clear it, put the main line back on. Now if I press locomotive 3, which I've still got on, and I press the sound, for example, or make it go, nothing is now happening. It's now completely forgotten that. It doesn't want to know. So if I now put loco 40 in, and I press the sound, it starts up. So that's the purpose of this. It's so that you can change any of these 250 variables within the system to make them, the locomotive, respond. And that means now we can have up to, as I say, 9,999 locomotives on the layout, all with different numbers, all on the same piece of track without any other isolation, and they will only respond to their own individual number. Well, that's another build over, a little bit over the top, but I always think it doesn't matter when it's your own hobby, you can do what you like. It's not as if I'm having to make it pay for a living. Hope you enjoyed the video, look forward to seeing you next week and we'll build something different. See you then, bye!